Welcome to the B&B show.
Build and Bet with Money and Preethi.
Hi, I'm Preeti.
And I'm Money. And this is the show for people who are done watching AI happen to their business and want to actually understand what's happening inside it.
I've spent 20 plus years moving between architecture, product, engineering, and go to market. And today I work with multiple organizations helping and building their AI innovation strategy. Before that, I was primarily in engineering and running it at global scale.
And I'm on the technical side of the same conversation. I spend most of my time helping enterprises scale AI agents safely, thinking through governance, translating research into things that actually work in production.
So, between the two of us, you're getting the technical build and the business call, which is really the point of this show.
And every episode, we sit in that intersection where a technical decision is a business decision. And if you pull it apart um, to make it so that it makes actual sense.
Here, there's no hype, no jargons. We're just chatting about what's really true and what to do. So let's get into it.
Yeah, so Preeti, today we are starting with the big picture. So, the pressures every leader is feeling around AI right now, how fast it's growing, the competitive pressure to do something, what resources are actually available, how to control cost, and how to actually deliver results instead of just activity.
Yeah, let's start about the growth, right? I think this is where a lot of leaders' heads start spinning. I mean, the innovation pace is such that everything that we looks like normal technology adoption, it's not. It's so convoluted.
Yeah, it doesn't. And historically, if you look at enterprise tech adoption was slow and it used to be deliberate, used to evaluate a pilot, and then you would roll out over the years. But I think with AI, it's compressing all of that. So the capabilities shifting every few months and not every few years. So it's making like everything go very fast, I believe.
Very true. It creates a very strange problem. Like, by the time a leader tries to finish evaluating something, they feel like this is the right product to launch, here's what we are going to do, and then boom, the landscape's already shifted. So, this is
Right.
like super fast.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of disorienting as well if you're used to more stable planning cycles. And Preeti, like when you talk to the leaders, what's the instinct that you see fall into when that happens?
I've been, if I were to look at the patterns, right, I see two kinds of patterns here. One that's just freezing and waiting, and the other is really chasing everything. And honestly, neither of them works perfectly. It's actually the ones, the leaders, the organizations who understand the pace of this change and then adjust their pace of decision making, right? You need to redecide you don't need to do this every quarter, what your AI strategy looks like, but you really need to absorb the fast changing capabilities and then try to pace your delivery without being writing your code every single time if something new ships.
Yeah, I like the statement that you think. I think that's a tweet moment. Build for the pace of change. Don't chase the pace of change. Yeah, that's so wonderful. And the next one's the one that I hear constantly too is like, our competitors are doing something with AI. We need to be doing something too. So, pretty like when leaders feel that pressure, how do you think? Like, what does that pressure actually do inside a particular organization?
Everybody has this compete pressure, right? No matter which organization or leader you talk to, they talk about competitive pressure. And I hear that constantly too. A compete is doing something different, like they're innovating with BI, they're releasing these features. We want to do something too, right? And it's like almost producing a very specific failure mode, right? Initiatives are being launched to do something with AI, but they're not really solving a business problem or what the customers really need, right? The goal quietly is shifting from solving a business problem to having an AI story for a board or to the market. And I don't say it's a problem for every organization, but I'm seeing that quite a bit where everybody's in a pressure to do something in this space and deliver soon to market.
Yeah, and which is actually backwards, right? Like, so how should that pressure can actually be used, like in a more constructive way? There is pressure, we are all feeling it. The pace of innovation is very fast, the competitive pressure is real. So, like, how we can use that pressure in a positive way? I think that would be my question to you.
Money, that's a great question, right? I feel like competitive pressure should sharpen the question like, where do we really use AI? One, to change our unit economics, and two, build our customer experience. So it's not about creating urgency to launch something. And I understand the leaders are under tremendous pressure, right? In the scale and they are operating on a lot of competitive presence and market trends. It becomes a forcing function to be specific. It becomes a reason just not to move fast and vague, but to be clear of where you're headed. So,
Yeah, so
money.
what you're saying is urgency is fine, but vagueness under urgency is what's going wrong, right? So I think that's a very very good point, and again another tweet moment or a really good tip, Preeti.
Yeah, thanks, money. And I would like to shift and talk to you. I mean, you're in the technical domain, like, in the weeds solving this problem. I know there's so much of ambiguity. Let's talk about resources too. I mean, because this landscape has genuinely changed and is growing super fast. What's actually available to our leaders or influencers today that wasn't available a few years ago? What's your take on it?
Um, I would say a few things. Like, we never used to have like managed platforms. I mean, they were there. We used to have managed services, but like fully managed AI platforms mean that you are not starting from raw infrastructure. I mean, now it's a choice. You can if you want to, but you also have an option where you can just call an AI API and the model invocation is done. So you don't have to think about what my raw infrastructure should look like if you want to quickly start. You can literally that's where a lot like if you look into the past, a lot of what used to require really large specialized team and can now be assembled from literally the existing building blocks. So and pre-trained models mean that you are really starting from zero, right? Earlier we used to have smaller models, you used to do the training, you had to do the data transformation. Unstructured data was not readily available to be used for training the models, but now you don't have to worry about these things. I mean, it's now become a choice, and most of the people are using these pre-trained models, and there is a much broader base of talent and tooling than there was even 2 3 years ago.
That's right. And I I hear what you're saying. I mean, that's key, right? What we have, what are the capabilities that are available to us. And that brings right back into the classic build versus buy partner question. Like, with new things to shape to it, how do you feel about this buy versus build scenario, given everything that's going on?
Yeah, that's actually a good point because I think I see a lot of leaders who default to we need to build everything ourselves out of an instinct for control, right? Um, and when actually assembling proven those components might actually move you faster and spend your differentiation where it actually matters. Like you are your business, you know your business the best, you are the subject matter expert. So rather than building everything, if you just focus on what you do the best and then just assemble the things to build an application which can actually add a lot of value to your business and create differentiation. I think this is where this matters a lot. And that's a common mistake, like, because we all humans are designed that way. I think we like to control a lot of things, which is a shift, what we have been seeing when, generative AI started back in 2023 to where we are right now. So, Preeti, like, if I have to ask you, how do you help? Because these are the common questions that we both get, right? So, how do you help leaders figure out that, like, okay, we know that they are defaulting to build, but how would that how would you help and guide the leaders to figure it out?
The biggest thing is understanding what are your resources at hand internally in your organization, what levers you can pull with your existing skills, knowledge, depth that the team has. Understanding what's in your control versus not, and differentiating, right? What's at table stakes. You know, most of the stack doesn't need to be proprietary. There are parts of the business that really, like, you as a business owner, you as the technology owner, understand what you can do that actually reflects your business advantage. And then you could think about, like, what are your levers that you can pull externally to complement what's lacking. And I think once the leaders see that, the build versus buy debate becomes less emotional. And this is where exactly I have the conversation about the discovery of what's available, how are we doing it today, what key things are table stakes, and where we can have some leverage to invest in external resources. I think that brings us to, the biggest question, which is the cost factor. And that most people get nervous around, like, how much are we spending, right? This is, we can do this, but we also have to make these investments. And this is where I feel that most of the early AI initiatives kind of look like a blank check, how much we're investing, not knowing if anybody's not, or someone is watching it closely, right? You know
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it's a real risk. And I think you have touched upon a very sensitive topic, because if we cannot control the cost, how will we increase the return on investment, right? So, as business leaders, that's where we need to understand. So, everyone is talking about, oh, I'm a token billionaire, I'm doing token maxing, but there is a cost attached to it. And seriously, like, a lot of AI cost is usage driven, it's not even fixed. So how do we even do the right estimation of the cost? And if you look at it, because it's not fixed, it's literally usage driven. It actually scales with how much the system is actually used, what is different from a lot of traditional software spend that leaders are actually used to budgeting for. So it's changing, the things. And I don't think we have, like, at least I have not seen any one framework that you can literally follow and say, oh, this is the framework that you should follow for cost estimation. And also because you can use different models for different tasks. And now with Kimi K3, I think the open source is also becoming like building a lot of frontier models. So now some of the leaders might want to deploy those in the sense of control, which might require a lot of infrastructure. I must tell you. So I think it's a real risk. It's a real risk.
Totally. It's a great call out, right? There's so much available at hand. Few years, like 2022 to fast forward to 2026, I think the open weight models have increased along with the frontier models, right? So there's like so much available to us. Small language models, large language models. Think about it. We are talking about mixture of models or mixture of experts, a lot of things. So from the technical perspective, right? What does good cost control actually look like? I mean, without strangling the initiative before even it proves itself. I'd like to get your insights, Mani. How do you recommend uh, cost control when you're talking to businesses or leaders who actually make those decisions?
Yeah. So I always recommend, like, it's always been my philosophy. Like, you have to stage your investment. Like, you don't cannot spend everything or give a big huge budget to your teams, right? So you have to start with smaller, cheaper experiments. just by looking at the POC, and a POC looks good, okay, let's have assign the entire budget. So and that brings in a lot of pressure to the builders and the developers as well, right? Because these are all new innovative things. So not just one POC, I would say just stage your investment, do small, cheaper experiments, and
Mhm.
then slowly and slowly, yeah, you can, once you have validated that something is working, and that's how you can scale not just your technical build, but also your cost investment, and revisit, okay, how much of my budget I've already spent on it. Is it growing too much? So for example, like, I remember this from my father. When he was building the house, he was very passionate. It was like his dream to build a really beautiful house for all of us, and it took him a lot of years. The reason was that every time we would used to start, it was like, oh, what can I do? Like, there is a new design that comes up. So he literally had to redesign the kitchen so many times. So, but there is a cost to everything when you're redesigning, you're doing things. So the cost actually inflated, and then he had to stop the build every time of the house. And it took us like 5 6 years where it could have just taken a year or two, right? So that's one example that you can relate with over here as well, that you have to instrument cost per outcome from day one, not just the total spend, right? The house example that I've given, it was like for a personal use, so that's fine, you can stagger it. But when you're talking about business, it's return on investment, right? Not just the total spend, but spend relative to the value being generated. I think that's the key point. Spend relative to the value being generated, and there should be a measurement on what value you are generating. And that can only happen when you have built in some checkpoints where you can course correct or stop, rather than doing a big irreversible bet and taking pressure from the board and everyone. So I think that's one thing.
Love the analogy, and I definitely echo with you on having metrics that you can measure your ROI. I think that's a tweak moment. I can summarize this whole thing and say, spend less, but spend in a way that you can see and adjust, right? I think that's the key point. Love it. Love it what
Yeah,
you said.
it's more about like visibility and reversibility. Like if you have reversible decision, then I think that's what we call it Amazon, like two-way door, right? If you have those two-way doors at every checkpoint, and you can reverse those things where you have full visibility, like data backed decisions, which you can see. I
I
think
think
that's more important than just a smaller number.
absolutely.
So
I love
this also connects to something we have talked about before, Preeti, right? The gap between activity and the actual results. So there are a lot of AI initiatives that generate a lot of motion, but it doesn't generate like proper outcomes. So what do you think that gap happens so often? Like, why would that gap happen so often? Like now we have like 4 years almost into this generative AI, but I still see that gap. So what's your take on it?
I would say delivering results, right? It's a big one. You talked about two-way door. I'm going to tap into one of the Amazon principles again here. It's called delivering results. And you and I know that, but biggest thing is for anyone, it's all about the result. And sometimes these pilots look impressive. It looks more AI theatrical, right? You have a really impressive pilot, you have a solution, but nothing makes it like, production news or durable, or you're not seeing the success you really have thought about it. And
Yeah,
that's because you haven't really defined it in the first place, right? So I feel
yeah.
that's the
So
biggest gap.
So let's talk about that. So what do you think? How should a leader define success before they even start? I think that's a good point that you have touched upon, and I would like to know more of your thoughts on that.
I think it's about having the clarity about what that output looks like, tying that back to a business metric that, even we get into the start, have that business metric tied back to the AI initiative and the conversation. Like, what does that cost look like, cost per transaction? How do you resolve it? What is the time involved in it? What's the conversion rate? Am I getting the revenue that I'm expecting out of this product or innovation? It doesn't, sometimes it's not all about revenue. Sometimes it's about just setting yourself for success for the business, right? What is that for the business KPI that you're working towards? It's not a, it may not be a technical metric. It's like model accuracy or something. It's about what is your customers looking for? What is that business problem that will drive your KPIs for your success? And then see if you can't find a business number, you should actually have an estimate, figure out roughly if you were to make certain decisions, what does it going to cost you? What are your
Yeah.
resources? Where you're going to spend your dollars? How are you thinking about addressing the gaps that you have today? And then put that estimate and figure out what does your investment really look like. And this is
Yeah.
what you need even before you know how to fund it, right? Really
Mhm.
understand the whole. Ex-
Yeah, I agree with you. So I think there is a discipline that you're talking about which will actually set a real result apart from a good demo. And one thing that I've also seen, like people get attached to their projects, like, oh, I've already spent those many weeks building it. I need to protect it. I think it requires a lot of courage to say that, oh, this works, but there is a better way to do things, and let me just scrap it off and start again. So I think
Absolutely.
we are talking about reversibility, but this attachment has to reduce as well, because people will be like, "Oh, this project is my baby." No, it's not.
Very true. Very well said. I mean, I love the word discipline, right? Discipline is what is needed. How do you iterate and make it reversible?
Yeah,
Reversible in terms of your decisions, so you can always fall back every single time.
yeah, 100%,
So,
100%.
just pulling all of this conversation together, we covered growth, we covered compete, we talked about resources today. We covered about the biggest thing, that is the cost, which keeps up most people up, you know. So, what do you think, like, if you were to summarize, how do you think that the leaders should think about all of this collectively? Manny,
Mm.
what's your take?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I think it's more about it's boiling down to a short of like a uh, to a set of like short questions or some set of questions. You can have like few questions, not too many, because too many is like dilutes the conversation. So if you have a set of like some questions which leaders can walk away into any AI decision with. So I would state those some of the questions, right? Because those are very important, and I think that's a good takeaway that everyone can have from this, podcast. Who are the people who are listening in. So one is that what business outcome are we actually trying to move, and by how much? So this second part, the stride, by how much, is important. And then also, like, what's your smallest version of this that we can test before we commit to a real budget,
Mm-hmm.
right? So committing to a budget by just seeing a POC, I think we have all seen it doesn't work. Those are nightmares, brings anxiety, and sets up another bill for mental health.
Yeah.
So that's important. And I think another one is, where does this need to be proprietary to us, that you mentioned, Preeti, while you were explaining, right? Versus what can we use, and like what we can use with or build with existing building blocks that we already have,
Mm-hmm.
or the build versus buy thing that you described earlier. And then cost is very important. Like, how will we see cost relative to value as this will scale? So scalability should be in your mind while you are building from day one. Yeah, obviously you're building a small proof of concept, but can this scale? Does it have all the right hooks that it can scale, right? So
Mm-hmm.
thinking about those is important, not just the total spend. And then I think the last one, because I promised that it should be like small set of questions. What would tell us clearly to stop? This is so important. Oh my God. Before you have spent too much to walk away with, like you should have, like earlier we remember the agile world where you used to do software development, there used to be a
Mm-hmm.
definition of done. Like
Yeah.
now, what is our definition of done for the AI projects? Like, when are you going to stop? Right? Because it's a never ending phase of optimization. Whether you optimize for the cost, then you optimize for the performance, and then there is a triangle, there are trade offs that you need to consider, and then you have to figure out, when do I stop? Like a clear definition of done, right? So, yeah, those will be like my few set of questions that I feel are the most important ones.
I agree. Those are the important questions of what, where, and how you're going to do this. And I think it comes up, it almost becomes a framework for any non-technical leader who can actually hold on to this and, you know, use this as a playbook for in the real world scenarios. I feel like we are shifting from SDLC to AI DLC, AI development life cycle. I feel
Yeah.
it's the next big thing, right? That's where we are headed to. So, if you were to walk away from one thing today, right? Bottom line,
Hmm.
the leaders who win here aren't the ones that are moving fast. They are the ones who are asking the sharpest and important questions before they commit. I think that's the key takeaway.
Hmm. Yeah. So I'll start with the most sensitive thing in the industry right now. We do have to address the elephant in the room, which is um, everyone is fearful about their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And developers feel that, oh, we have AI tools, they can do the coding, so we can be replaceable. AI leaders have a separate, fear that AI is going to replace the leaders. It can build strategy. We are using AI to build the strategy. Then, AI can do it on its own as well. So everyone is like really fearful about their jobs, their current position, their value proposition that they bring to the table. But I want to address that. You rightly called out AI DLC. So I think we still need developers. We still need them to review this stuff. We still need them to prioritize things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and again, this is a very deep topic that I think we can cover next time. But um, I just feel that AI is not going to replace the leaders. It's not going to replace the developers as well. The way that we work will change and is changing. We have to embrace that change. If we resist the change, I think that's where those are the folks which are getting hit really hard. And again, one and the reason why I say this specifically for the leaders is leaders who can ask better questions are going to outperform the ones who don't. So it's not about how technical you are as a leader. Of course, that has its own advantage. But if you have the right questions, you know your business, you have been the subject matter expert, you have that experience under your belt. I'm like, that's no AI can buy that. Period. Like you know what you're doing. You can use AI to help you out, but at the end of the day, it's your strategy, your business. You are the owner. You are going to, make these things happen with by using AI. But I think people who are resisting AI are the ones that are getting hit. So I think embracing it with its own pros and cons, there are a lot of pros and cons. And again, those are the topics we can always dive into, and that's what this podcast is for, right?
Absolutely. I want to just add for our audiences, right? When we talk about leaders, we are not talking about people who are going to write the checks like the CROs and the C-suite employees only, right? I mean, the leaders that who make those big decisions. I think it's for all of the leaders within the organization who are keen technology champions, influencing those big bets, driving the strategy, coming up with those innovative ideas, and thinking through what the next um, innovative idea is going to look like for the market. I think it's for all of those people. What we want to, what I want to emphasize is that just ask the right questions, and that's the key takeaway to me, right? So great conversation today. Love it. Next time, I think we're going to get into the specifics, right? And we're going to dive into our mental model and how to do things, how to assess risk and capabilities. I'm super excited about what's going to come next. So, looking forward to our next chat.
Yeah, absolutely. So see you then.
See you
And
then.
thank you for watching. And
Thank
don't
you.
forget to subscribe to this channel, right? Because we will
Absolutely.
be coming up with so many interesting topics and you can say hot topics or whatever. But we will be coming up with real industry value, real lens. So if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel so that you get the notifications as soon as we have our next episode online. Thank you.
That's right. Thank you. See you then.
See ya.